You know, every winter there seems to be two sides to a story, and that is finding crappie this time of year. Now, both sides work, and on today's video we're going to be covering exactly that. We're going to be covering how to find them deep, and we're also going to be explaining how creeks and shallow flats play a huge role in finding the biggest fish of your life. So stay tuned. What's going on, guys? Steven Turner here with Crappie Man Jigs. Welcome back to another video. So we're gonna explain the easiest part of crappie fishing this time of year first, and then we'll get into the more technical things later on in the video. So first and foremost, if you ask somebody, where do you find crappie, Steven? You know, without knowing your lake, without knowing anything, I'm gonna say they school up deep. They hold on to structure. Structure is gonna be a little bit warmer, so they're gonna be tight knit. But the reality of that entire conversation, you've got to get to the point of it of you want to be where the bait is. Now, is that at the front of the creek, the second half of the creek? Have you had a little bit of warm temperature and the bait moved to the back of the creek? You know, that's kind of where we're going with this video right now. So, crappie in the wintertime, they're coming from their little fall pattern, as you could say, where they go in the creeks a little bit, they feed up, just, you know, whatever, and then they push back out deep. Now, that's only probably about 60% of the fish, in my opinion, that push back out deep. Now, you've got the other 40% that we're going to cover later on in the video, so stick around. So, the deeper winter crappie, you want to be looking not really main lake. Now, you're going to find fish main lake, but there should be a lot of shad, threadfin shad, gizzard shad, which you don't really want to worry about the gizzard shad too much. And if you live on a blueback herring lake, definitely try to check out where those fish are too. But normally they're kind of deep this time of year. But in this video, we're going to be focusing on threadfin shad. So you've heard the saying, find the bait, find the fish. Easier said than done. Where are you going to be looking for these baits? Where are you going to be looking for this bait? Where's the best place to start? If you put your boat in on any body of water, where should you be going? You want to look at the map and you want to find the biggest and baddest creek. Now, you know, if you're fishing out of a smaller boat and you can't go fish the bigger water where the bigger creek is, you don't really have to do that. But in my opinion, if I was fishing a new body of water, I'm going to study the map. It all starts at home. Study the map, find the biggest and baddest creek that you can find. That creek's going to provide more plankton, and more plankton is going to equal more bait fish in that surrounding area. More bait fish equals slabs. And that's science. You know, so as soon as you find the biggest creek, you want to start at the beginning of the creek. You know, if you're fishing off the bank, can't really help you this time of year. You kind of got to go back in the creeks and hope that you can find some. But start at the beginning of the creek. It don't matter if you have 2D, side scan, live scope, whatever. Start at the beginning of a creek. Follow the ledges, follow the creek channels until you find structure, one, that has fish on it, or two, you find bait fish. Now, once you start seeing little balls of bait, they'll look like this. You want to kind of spread out your horizon. You know, you don't want to just zigzag back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Once you hit that bait ball, you're either A, going to see fish under that bait ball feeding. You can catch those with live scope, or you can troll through them with a spider rig. Or B, you want to use your 2D side scan, down scan, and find brush piles, dock pylons, anything that is near that ball of bait, or, you know, a lot of bait is what you're looking for. Now, if you're not finding that in the first quarter of that creek, check the second half quarter of the creek. Now, if you don't find them between the first and the second half, you want to go completely out because your fish are not in that creek yet, and they're going to be right around the mouth of that creek. But normally when your water temperature gets below 50, you're going to find them in that first half of the creek. Now, there are going to be some fish in the last half of the creek too, but those are very, very spread out. But We're going to talk about those in a minute. Now, these fish that you find in the first half of that creek or right around the corner of the mouth of that creek, they are going to be what I consider a day and night difference. You can pull up to a brush pile, a dock, it'll have 200 fish on it. Now, either A, you're about to limit out really, really fast, or B, they're going to make you mad. And that's just this time of year. It's kind of like a late summer pattern where you've got to go from place to place to place. But there is a spot that's one of those fish are biting. And normally, if you can get one to bite, you can get a lot of them to bite this time of year. Because for some reason, you know, fish got brains and they just be swimming around. Every fish is different. That fish wants a monkey milk. This fish wants a crappie man green. But you've got to figure that out too. So do not just throw one color all day long and be like, man, the fish ain't biting, man. I don't know what's going on with them. No, truth is, you want to have about 2 rods on the deck, one with a bright color and one with a natural color. My suggestions would be crappie man green, of course, and monkey milk. Hands down, you cannot go wrong with that. We are also offering both of those colors in hand ties with wedge-tail jigs now. So check them out at crappiemanjigs.com right here. So once you find a brush pile that you get a bite on, you know, whether you're fishing with minnows, you can even fish with minnows this time of year. You will be surprised at the amount of fish that you can catch with a split shot and a hook this time of year. Like, this is the most traditional way to crappie fish. It works. Like, don't be afraid to buy you some minnows. Although I don't like doing it because your hand gets cold this time of year, trying to dip your hand in the bucket myself. But once you find those brush piles, docks, ledges, school of bait, and you're actually catching a few fish. Now, how do you capitalize on this? And what I like to do is what I call a rotation. When I start getting a bite, whether I'm getting a bite on a 2-inch jig, a 1.5-inch jig, a hand tie, a little bitty swim bait, a minnow even, if I can get 3 or 4 fish in the boat, and then I make a couple casts. Now, if I'm watching the screen with live scope, I'm going to do this a lot sooner than would I be traditionally fishing. If I'm casting by these fish and they're not following it out of the brush pile or out of the school, I'm changing color to the next cast. I'm changing the profile of the next cast. But if you're just fishing traditionally and you get a few bites and they just stop biting, that's when you want to downgrade. Now, downgrading can mean 2 things. Like, you've got to keep in mind, a 1/16 and a 1/64 jig heads is a big enough downgrade, and you don't have to change the plastic. Just changing the size of your jig head can really make a big difference in 1, the rate of fall, and 2, the profile that you're presenting to the fish. So if you're catching them on a 1/16, they stop biting, throw on a 132, cast it out, see if that makes a difference in the drop rate. And if that doesn't, if you fish for it for a while and you don't get a bite, change the color. And if that don't get a bite, you can up the jig back and change the color again and try to rinse and repeat. Now, you may have to move around. You could catch the only 3 fish on that pile that, you know, is hungry. It's like you put 50 people in a McDonald's restaurant, you know, 10 of them want chicken nuggets, 10 of them want hamburgers, 10 of them are vegan and don't want to eat nothing, and the other ones, they just using the bathroom. So every brush pile, they got a bunch of fish in them. Every one of those fish has a different brain, and you've got to figure out, you know, what's the trend, so to say, for the day in order to catch a fish off that pile. But you want to check those creek channels all the way through, main river channels into the creeks, any bends. Bends in a creek channel are hot spots for crappie, no matter what time of year it is. So now let's talk about the ladder. Now, this is going to be the controversial part of the video, because if you talk to somebody that's 70 and 80 years old, how you doing? If you're watching the video, much love. But if you talk to the older generation of fishermen, and if I told them right now, you can catch the biggest fish of your life 5 feet or less, 10 feet or less. And they will probably look at you like, you eat corn with a butter knife. But anyways, 10 feet or less flats. If you can find a 10 feet or less flat off of a creek channel. Now this is going to be kind of from the middle of the creek to the back of the creek. Now, you're not going to catch a lot of fish. I'm going to throw that. If you want to go out and limit a lot of fish, rewatch the first part of this video. But if you want to catch a 2-pounder, a 3-pounder even. I've never caught a 3-pounder, but you know, I'm trying, darn it. But if you want to catch a 2-pound trophy fish and you have live scope, fish 10 feet to 5 feet flats. The bigger the flat, the more chances that that flat has some kind of structure that one fish is going to be on that is absolute giant. This time of year, the biggest crappie that I've ever found are almost always alone in the back of a creek, in the middle of a creek channel, and they're in the most random spots. I mean, it's the winter time. You're supposed to be fishing 20 to 40 feet deep. Who the heck is looking on a 10 feet flat? Come on now, come on. But yeah, but what you're looking for on that is you're looking for stumps, laydowns, any kind of unnatural thing in the water, and you're just looking for blobs. I'm going to be making a lot of videos coming up about scoping fish one by one. So if you would like to enjoy those videos, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you'll be presented with every video that's coming out. I also go live every night making baits right here on Crappie Man Jigs. So stay tuned for everything to come. I haven't made a long form video in a while, so if you've made it this far in the video, let me know down in the comments below, because it would mean a lot to know that some of y'all still want to watch me talk. But those bigger fish in the back of the creeks, how are you going to catch them? You want your long poles, your 10 to 15 foot poles, and most of the time, this time of year, you want to drop it on their head and let it sit. You just hold it and wait for them to bite. And that's the easiest way to catch them this time of year. Now, what do you throw? You got to let the fish decide that. My personal favorite is a 164 with a big weight above it. It doesn't really matter what plastic I put on it. I'm gonna change colors until I get a bite. And also, one of my hand ties, my favorite color is the bootlegger jig, which is a black chartreuse black jig. No, it's black chartreuse and fluorescent green with a little bit of chartreuse flash on it. And that jig has produced really, really well. I got a guy in Alabama, he used that same pattern of jig tying and he caught a couple 3-pounders on it just a couple weeks ago. So the main process of this entire video is to get back in to doing long form videos, talk about what these fish are doing in January. So if you learned something, make sure to hit the subscribe button, smash that like button down below, and I'm gonna try to do one of these a week. I'm gonna try. So please let me know if you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Lock real tight, tug on that line. Crappie man lures, making the catch to find on YouTube. Learn the tricks of the trade.